So this month our subject is the next verse of vuruvadaṉā Nāṛpadu, that is verse 5. In the previous verse, Bhagavan said, if oneself is a form, the world and God will be likewise. If oneself is not a form, who can see their forms and how? The implication is that only if we take ourselves to be a form can we see the world and God as form. And when we do not experience ourselves as a form, there's no one to see God and the world as forms. So in this verse, Bhagavan continues this subject. The form we all take ourselves to be is obviously a body. All of us experience ourselves as I am this body. And Bhagavan said that mixed self-awareness I am this body, is the ego. That is, the ego is not the pure I am, and it's not the body, but it's a mixture of the two. Therefore it's uḻḷadu Nāṛpadu. Chit is the I am portion, the pure awareness, and the body is jada, insentient. These two combined form the ego. The ego has no existence independent of these two. So in this verse 5, he tells us something more about the nature of this body that we now experience ourselves to be. Small mistake there. I didn't correct one thing. What he says is, he begins by saying the body is a form of 5 sheaths, uḍalpañca, kōśa, uḍal. And then in the next sentence he says, adaṉāl, aindum, eṉṉum, sollil, oḍuṅgum. That means, therefore, all 5 are included in the term body. So when Bhagavan says the ego is the false self-awareness, the mixed self-awareness, I am this body, what he means by body is not just this physical body. It means all these 5 sheaths. In the Kali version, before the first sentence, he added one word, which actually serves as an adverbial clause. The word he added is eṉṇum, and what it means is if one considers. And so when he superficially you can say this doesn't add any meaning to the verse. Whether you say the body is a form composed of 5 sheaths, or if one considers the body is a form composed of 5 sheaths, the meaning is the same. But by adding this word, eṉṇum, Bhagavan is prompting us to consider why he says that the body is a form composed of 5 sheaths. Bhagavan doesn't want us just to accept without question what he says. He wants us to think about it and understand why he says the body is a form composed of 5 sheaths. So he says, if one considers. So we need to consider why he says the body is a form composed of 5 sheaths. We all experience ourselves as a body, but when we experience ourselves as a body, are we just experiencing this physical body, the annamaya kōśa, a sheath composed of form, in other words, the physical body? Is that the only thing that we're experiencing as ourselves? No. Has anyone ever experienced the dead body as I? No, we all experience a living body as I. The life in the body is what is called prana. Prana is, it manifests in the form of our breathing, the heartbeat, all the physiological functions in the body are a manifestation of the life that is there in the body. That life is called prana. So since we never experience a dead body as I, we never experience the annamaya kōśa in isolation as I. It's always living Annamaya kōśa. In other words, Annamaya kōśa plus Pranamaya kōśa. Kōśa means a sheath or covering, something in which we've enveloped ourselves. Annamaya means composed of food. Pranamaya means composed of life or breath. So we experience ourselves as a living body. But we don't ever experience ourselves as a sleeping body. We experience ourselves as a waking body. Even in dream we experience ourselves as a waking body, because when we're dreaming, it seems to us that we're awake. And Bhagavan said that therefore there's actually no difference between waking and dream. A dream is a dream. A dream is understood to be a dream only from the perspective of another dream. So long as we're dreaming, the current dream always seems to be waking. When at night time when we're having a dream, we don't think we're dreaming, we think we're awake. And we go through, it seems to us to be, we seem to have a physical body and we seem to be in a physical world. It's only when we wake up that we understand that that was all mental projection. It wasn't actually a physical body or a physical world, it was all just a mentally created world. But that is from the perspective of another dream, because we're not currently identifying that dream body as I, we're able to see that it was mental projection. Because we're now currently experiencing this present body as I, it seems to us to be physical. But if we were to wake from this state into another dream, then this dream would seem to us to be a mental projection. So we always experience a living body as I and a waking body as I. A waking body means not only is the prana there in the body, functioning in the body, the mind and intellect are also functioning in the body. So the mind is called Manomaya kōśa, the sheath or covering or envelope composed of, or enveloping, composed of mind, and the intellect, the buddhi, is called Vijñānamaya kōśa, the sheath composed of vijñāna, which means intellect, or the ability to, vijñāna, Bhagavan, that is, V is a, means to, V has a similar function to dis in English, like you distinguish. Like when we distinguish things, we make out one thing from another. We distinguish a good film from a bad film. We are separating two things. So like the prefix dis in English, the prefix v in Sanskrit has a similar function. So vijñāna is the ability to distinguish, the ability to discriminate and distinguish one thing from another. That is the function of the intellect. It's in other words, the analytical and the reasoning function of the mind is called intellect or buddhi or vijñānamaya kōśa. So there, all four sheaths are functioning now in the waking state, and they also function in the dream state. There's a fifth sheath, which is called the anandamaya kōśa. This it's also called the karana sarira, the causal body. This is the sheath composed of happiness. I'll explain why it's called the sheath composed of happiness in a moment. But basically, what this fifth sheath is, it's also called, for example, in verse 22 of uḍalpañca, Bhagavan refers to it as irul. Irul means darkness. This is the darkness of self-ignorance. How does self-ignorance arise? When we fail to attend to ourselves and focus all our attention on ourselves, we become aware of otherness, and that is self-ignorance. Bhagavan says, Nānavam jnanam ajñānamam. The knowledge of multiplicity is ignorance. And this ignorance arises because of, and is actually synonymous with, pramāda. Pramāda means negligence. In this context, in the context of Advaita philosophy, pramāda means self-negligence. Now we are all aware of ourselves. We are all saying I. We are all aware of I. But because we are because we are so interested in other things that we're also aware of, we neglect this I, and we throughout the waking and dream state, generally speaking, our attention is dwelling on things other than ourselves. So we're aware of ourselves, but negligently aware of ourselves. That self-negligence is self-ignorance, and that is what, and that is the karana sarira, the cause of all of this. And that is the very nature of the ego, because the ego rises by grasping, Bhagavan says, urupatri nikum, grasping form it rises, grasping form it stands. Urupatri undu nika ongum, grasping and feeding on forms, it flourishes. So that's the nature of the ego. So the ego is always attending to things other than itself, and thereby neglecting to attend only to itself. That self-negligence is we can say it's the cause of self-ignorance, but actually it is self-ignorance itself. We can't separate self-ignorance from self-negligence. So that is what the karana sarira or anandamaya kōśa is. So we couldn't now take this body to be I if we were not ignorant of what we actually are. That is, if we experienced ourselves as we really are, we wouldn't mistake ourselves to be anything else. So we wouldn't take ourselves to be this body. So Bhagavan says that this body is a form composed of these 5 sheaths. That's the first thing we envelop ourselves with is self-ignorance. And then we envelop ourselves with intellect, mind, prana, and body. All actually, though we say then, actually it all happens simultaneously, because all these 5 are included in the term body. We never experience a body as I that does not consist of all these 5 sheaths. Sometimes in some older texts, they say in the waking state we experience the gross body as I, and in dream we experience the subtle body as I. Subtle body, the sukshma sarira, means the mind, and the sthula sarira, or gross body, means this physical body. But that is said from the perspective of this waking state. Because in this waking state we understand that the body we experience as I in a dream was just a mental projection. So in that sense it's a subtle body, but when we were actually experiencing it as I, it seemed to us to be gross. And according to Bhagavan, even this seemingly physical body that we now experience as I is itself a mental projection. So actually, Bhagavan said there's no difference between waking and dream. So in both waking and dream, we experience what seems to be a physical body, along with its prana and the manamaya kōśa and the jnanamaya kōśa and the underlying self-ignorance. All these are what we experience as ourselves. So the uḍalpañca kōśa uru, such a simple statement but so much meaning packed into it. Adaṉāl, aindum, eṉṉum, sollil, oḍuṅgum. Therefore all 5 are included in the term body. So when Bhagavan talks about the term body, he's talking about the whole person, all the body, the life in the body, the mind, the intellect, and the underlying self-ignorance. That's what Bhagavan means by the term body. Then in the next sentence he says, uḍalpañca, uṇḍō, ulaham. Uḍalpañca means without a body, or except for a body, or unless there was a body, unless besides a body is there a world. Only when we experience ourselves as a body do we perceive a world. This is what he said also in the previous verse, where he said, if oneself is a form, the world and God will be likewise. If oneself is not a form, who can see their forms and how? So it's only when we take ourselves as a form, this body, do we see a world consisting of forms. So Bhagavan said, but one asks, obviously it's a rhetorical question, without a body, is there a world? Uḍalpañca, uṇḍō, ulaham. So there's, the implication obviously is there is no world unless we experience ourselves as a body. That is the implication there. And then in the next sentence he says much the same thing. Viṭṭu again means without a body, but more literally it's leaving a body. Ṭulahattaik, kaṇḍā, ruḻarō. Is there anyone who has seen a world? kaṛaṟu, say. In other words, say, is there anyone, say, leaving the body, is there anyone who has seen a world? So again, the implication here is again, it's a rhetorical question. Is there anyone who has seen a world without a body? The answer is no. It's only when we experience ourselves as a body, and not just a dead body, we experience ourselves as a living body with a mind and everything. In other words, when we experience all these five sheaths as I, then only do we see a world, whether a world in this state or in any other dream. Worlds arise only when we experience ourselves as a body. And since we experience ourselves as a body which is a part of that world, and but when we take the body to be I, the body to be ourselves, since we are real, the body seems to be real. And since the body is part of the world, the whole world seems to be real. So we cannot perceive a world without taking it to be real. Now we understand that the world we experienced in a dream was just a mental projection. It wasn't real. It didn't really exist there. It just existed in our mind. We all understand that, and we have no doubt about that. We don't have to study philosophy or anything. We all just, when we wake up from a dream, we understand, oh, that was just a dream. It was just a mental projection. This is common knowledge to all people in the world. We're able to see, we're able to recognize, once we come out of a dream, we're able to recognize that it was a dream. But so long as we were actually dreaming, that dream body seemed to be ourselves, and therefore it seemed to be real, and therefore the world which we perceive through the five senses of that body also seemed to be real. So that's why Bhagavan says in Nāṇya, as real as this world now appears to us to be, so real the world we experience in a dream appears to be at that time. So the perception of a world, or the seeming existence of a world, is entirely dependent upon our identifying ourselves with a body consisting of these five sheaths. The final word of the verse is kaṛaṟu, which means, it's an imperative verb, it means say or tell. And in the Kalivemba version, Bhagavan appended a second person suffix to it, making it kaṛaṟu vai, which means you say, but again in an imperative sense. So in effect, the suffix that he added in the Kalivemba version adds a bit more emphasis to it. Like in English, we normally don't add you when we say an imperative. We say do it. But if you really want to stress you do it, yeah, it's adding a bit more emphasis to that imperative. So in the same way, when Bhagavan added this second person suffix, he intensified it. So he's saying you say it. He's telling us you say it. That means, again, it's similar to the link word before the verse, the Kalivemba link word, eṉṇum, which means if one considers. Here he's saying you say. So he's asking us to consider these questions and think about it. And when he says you say, he means you think about it and come to your own conclusion. Does the world exist apart from the body? We all know from our experience, no one has ever experienced a world without experiencing themselves as a body. So the seeming existence of the world is dependent upon our taking ourselves to be a body. and the body that we take ourselves to be always consists of 5 sheaths. Coming back to the first sentence again, where he said the world, the body is a form composed of 5 sheaths, uḍalpañca, kōśa, there is never a time when we experience any one of these 5 sheaths without experiencing all the other 4. In waking, we are self-ignorant, and our self-ignorance gives rise to the mind, which consists of manomaya kōśa and pranamaya kōśa, which in turn, and the mind cannot rise without projecting and grasping a physical form as itself, so the whole of the 5 sheaths arise simultaneously in waking and in dreams. Generally, in older texts, it is said that that in sleep the only sheath that remains is the ānandamaya kōśa. And ānandamaya kōśa means the sheath composed of happiness. And the reason it's called the sheath composed of happiness is because it is believed that that's the only sheath that remains in sleep. And since sleep is a happy state, it is called the sheath of happiness. But it's also called, as I said, Bhagavan calls it irul. It's also called, its form is considered to be ignorance, the darkness of ignorance. However, though that the reason it is said in older texts that remains in sleep is that we look for an explanation. If the ego doesn't exist in sleep, why does it rise again in waking or in another dream? Our minds are always looking for reason. We want causes for everything. But actually there's no cause for the rising of the ego, because the ego itself is the cause of everything else. Ego is the first cause. There is no cause preceding the ego. In sleep, cause and effect has no meaning at all. Because there's nothing, what we experience in sleep is only pure self-awareness, which is unformed, because it has always been and it always will be. It's the basic fundamental reality. The nature of existence is self-awareness. The nature of uḻḷadu is uṇḍō, is awareness. So there is no cause for the self-awareness, the pure self-awareness that we experience in sleep, because that is the ultimate substance. The first cause, and therefore the cause for everything else, is just the ego. So though our intellects are not satisfied without looking for a cause, then people ask, Bhagavan, why did the ego rise? Bhagavan said, first see if it's risen, and then come back and ask me. If you can find this ego, you come and ask me why it's risen. The ego seems to exist only because we don't look at it, only because we look at other things. If we look back at ourselves, as he says in verse 25, āindum otum pidikam, it saw, it takes flight. That is, so long as we are aware of anything else, we seem to be the ego. But if we look back at ourselves to see who am I, we see that we are, if we look at ourselves keenly enough, we'll see that we are just pure self-awareness. And pure self-awareness, because it's pure self-awareness, is not aware of anything other than itself. So the ego that is aware of other things is an impure form of self-awareness. But if it turns back to look at itself, it subsides and disappears, because it has it doesn't actually exist. It's just a seeming existence, and it seems to exist only so long as it is looking at other things. And in whose view does it seem to exist? Only in its own view. So the ego is the problem, and it is, for whom is it a problem? Only for itself. Brahman never complains about the ego. Brahman is not disturbed by the appearance of the ego or the world, because in the view of Brahman, there is no ego in the world. Because as Bhagavan said in the previous verse, if oneself is not a form, Brahman obviously isn't a form, Brahman means what we really are, is not a form, who can see their forms and how? So in the view of the formless Brahman, which is our real nature, the formless pure self-awareness, there are no forms to be seen. And as he says in the next sentence of that previous verse, can what is seen be otherwise than in nature than the eye that sees it? That is, all right, wait a second, I'll just slip my mind now. Kaṇḍā says, can what is seen be otherwise than what is seen, than what sees it, than the eye that sees it? So it's because we take ourselves to be a form, but everything else appears to be form. But when we experience ourselves as a formless Brahman, we will not see any form. So Brahman has never seen any ego or any world. It's only in the view of the ego that the ego seems to exist, and that the ego creates problems. All problems arise only from this ego and only for this ego. So what is the solution? Bhagavan says, let the ego look at itself. It will then see itself to be pure self-awareness, and therefore it will see that it was never actually an ego. With the nature of the ego is an awareness, is a sukharidu, an awareness that is aware of other things, of things other than itself. But the Brahman is never aware of anything other than itself. Yes. So I was saying about the so though it is generally said in the ancient texts that the Karana Sarira or Anandamaya kōśa is the only sheep that remains in sleep, according to Bhagavan, that is not actually the case. Bhagavan says people generally it is considered that sleep is a state of ignorance and waking is a state of knowledge. That is actually the opposite of the truth. Sleep is a state of pure knowledge, pure self-awareness, and sleep is a state of pure self-awareness, and waking is a state of self-ignorance. So sleep is a state of complete ignorance. Waking is a state. Waking and dream are states of complete ignorance. Sleep is a state of pure, perfect knowledge. So when it is said that the Bhagavan's analysis of things, it goes a little bit deeper than what is said in older texts. Because Bhagavan has said the root cause of the whole problem arises, but the whole problem is the ego, and arises because of the ego, and arises in the view of the ego. So, since the ego doesn't exist in sleep, how can it be? It's only these five sheaths. Kōśa means a sheath, a covering. These something that envelops something else. It's only the ego that is enveloped by these five sheaths. What we actually are, Brahman, is not enveloped by anything. So, since the ego doesn't exist in sleep, how can there be any kōśa? So how can the Anandamaya kōśa exist in sleep in the absence of the ego? Bhagavan says in verse 26, Ahandayum dayan anatum undahum. Ahandayum drel indru anatum. That if the ego comes into existence, everything comes into existence. If the ego doesn't exist, everything doesn't exist. So there are no sheaths, not even the Anandamaya kōśa, not even the Karana Sarira, in the absence of the ego. And the ego is absent in sleep. Why do we have to say the ego is absent in sleep? Because the ego is nothing but a wrong knowledge of ourselves. The ego is only the mixed self-awareness, I am this body. But in sleep we don't experience ourselves as I am this body. We're not aware of anything other than ourselves. So there is absolutely no ego in sleep, and therefore there are no kōśas in sleep. So it is only for the sake of people who want to have an answer to how this ego arises in waking and dream, but it is said that sleep is a state of self-ignorance. And that is how it appears from the perspective of the ego in waking and dream. Why does sleep seem to us to be a state of ignorance? Because we, this ego, were not present there. What was present in sleep was only the pure self-awareness that we actually are. But because we we now don't experience ourselves, we as this ego that is, don't experience ourselves as pure self-awareness, but only as mixed self-awareness. In the absence of this mixed self-awareness in sleep, it seems we didn't know anything. In sleep we were perfectly aware, but we weren't aware of anything. And because we mistake awareness of things other than ourselves, to be real awareness, we think sleep is a state devoid of awareness. But actually it's a state of pure awareness, awareness without any object. So there's no ego in sleep, and therefore there's no body, none of the five sheaths are present in sleep. So these five sheaths come into existence simultaneously and they disappear simultaneously. Therefore Bhagavan's firm conclusion is uḍalpañca kōśa. The body is a form composed of five sheaths. All these five are included in the term body. And the implication is that none of them exist in isolation. They all together form one whole as what we call the body or the person. When I say I am Michael, Michael is the name of a person. But this person is not just a dead body, it's a living body, a body with a mind, a personality, likes and dislikes and all these things. And also, obviously, when I say I am Michael, I am ignorant of what I actually am. So the self-ignorance is there. So all these go together, they're inseparable. We can't separate one from the other. And the whole world depends upon my taking myself to be these five sheaths. So this verse is as I said when I was talking about verse 4, it's really from verse 4 that Bhagavan really begins to present what Bhagavan is presenting in Uḷḷadu Nāṛpadu is pure Advaita philosophy, but he's presenting it in a very new and fresh way, and he's greatly simplifying the old, because in the old text there's so much complication, so much, because the human intellect likes to complicate things. So over the centuries things have got more and more complicated, more and more pundits have thought about it, explained it in their own way, more and more ideas have arisen. Bhagavan says, all ideas arise from where? They arise from the ego. They are the ego's ideas. Everything comes back to the ego. Who experiences problems? Who is unhappy? Who is troubled by desires? Who is troubled by fears? It's only the ego. So Bhagavan says the whole problem boils down to this ego. And the ego is nothing but a wrong awareness of ourselves. So the only solution to the ego is being aware of ourselves as we actually are. When we're aware of ourselves as we actually are, we'll know that we never were an ego. So all problems are not just solved, we will understand that they never existed in the first place. But so long as we seem to be this ego, problems seem to exist, and therefore it seems to be necessary for us to investigate ourselves to see what we actually are. So Bhagavan has simplified things, manifold simplification. Advaita philosophy couldn't be made simpler than Bhagavan has made it in Uḷḷadu Nāṛpadu, and of course in his other works, but particularly in Uḷḷadu Nāṛpadu, he's really giving the core principles of his teachings, the core metaphysical principles of his teachings. So, like so many other verses of Uḷḷadu Nāṛpadu, this is a really, really important verse. We understand this, and to understand this fully we have to understand it in the context of all the other verses, because these verses, they're all very coherent. All the ideas he expresses in different verses, they all cohere, they're all tied together, and each verse throws more light on each other verse, because they all form one whole, one coherent conceptual whole. Right. But it's very, very, very simple. So in order to understand Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu, we don't have to have a brilliant intellect or anything. We have to be ready to simplify our understanding, which means we have to be ready to let go of, to jettison all our old ideas. If we aren't ready to give up our old ideas and beliefs, we won't be able to understand the pure simplicity of Bhagavan's teachings. Sadhuam used to say, if you bring to me a scribbled slate and ask me to write Bhagavan's name on it, if I write Bhagavan's name over all the scribbling that's already there, his beautiful name will just become another scribbling. So first I will wipe the slate clean, and then I will write his name. Then the beauty of his name can be seen. In the same way, if we want to really receive the full impression, if we want Bhagavan's teaching to be deeply impressed upon our mind and heart, we have to be ready to wipe our mind and heart clear of all other beliefs, ideas, preconceptions. We have to come to Bhagavan like a child. We have to be as innocent as a child, as I think somewhere in the Bible Jesus or something said. I mean, it's the same meaning. We have to become so simple that our mind has to be simple. We have to free ourselves from so many old beliefs and ideas and be ready to see everything in a very simple way. This whole world appears because I rise as this ego. When I don't rise as this ego, nothing else exists, just pure self-awareness, as we experience every day and see. So I think I've probably talked long enough, so you may have some questions to ask.
So, thank you, Michael. So I have just have a comment. So basically, in this verse, seems like Bhagavan is talking about both the problem and the solution too. So the problem-wise, he's talking about these 5 sheets. So you really analyze it. All those 5 sheets are actually because of the 5th sheet, which is self-ignorance. It really is one sheet actually, and even that is just a concept, a wrong knowledge of ourselves. So basically this so-called 5th sheet is actually the kaṛaṇa or causal body, which
it's what causes all the other appearances of the others. If we weren't self-ignorant, we couldn't take ourselves to be a body, and if we didn't take ourselves to be a body, we couldn't see any world or anything other than ourselves.
Right.
So actually, in this verse, Bhagavan is not explicitly referring to the solution. Here he's analyzing the problem. But if you understand the problem correctly, the solution is implicit there. The problem is because we take ourselves as this form, this body consisting of 5 C's, because that is the problem is the body is not a problem, the world is not a problem. It's I who take this body to be I and therefore see this world. I am the problem. So since I am the problem, I have to find the solution within myself. I am the problem because I am experiencing myself as something other than what I actually am. Therefore the solution to this is simply for me to be aware of myself as I actually am. So the solution is implicit here but not explicit. But in many other verses, Bhagavan makes it very explicit.
Right. So I thought when he used the word eṇṛi, if we scrutinize, so that was I think, and then in the final word say, so if we take that together, there's an implicit reference to Atma Vichara, right? Or am I pushing it too much?
In this context, in some contexts it can mean if you scrutinize, but here it's better to take it if we consider, because this is here we're using our intellect to discriminate and understand these things. But our Atma Vichara, we're not investigating the body, we're investigating one who takes the body to be I. But here in this first sentence, the body is a form of 5 C's. Bhagavan is analyzing the nature of the body. So I think here it's better to take eṉņil as if one considers rather than if one scrutinizes. It can be scrutinized, means if you scrutinize what this body is, but it just seems to me that in English, in this context, consider is a better, more appropriate term.
Okay.
Scrutinize is a term I would use more for atma-vichara itself, where we're scrutinizing ourselves. We're looking very keenly at ourselves. But here we are just analyzing what is this body that we now take to be I. This body consists of these 5 sheaths. And all these 5 sheaths are included in the term body, and without this 5-sheath body, is there a world? So Bhagavan even here actually he's not talking about I at all. From the context of the other verse, we understand the body is what we take to be I, so I is the problem. But actually in this verse he doesn't mention I at all, because this is analyzing what is this body that I now take to be myself. So he's analyzing the problem here. In later verses he connects that back to the ego. With the ego, even in the previous verse he says, if oneself is a form, referring to this form of 5 sheaths, the body. But so there he refers to oneself. He talks about time, it means oneself, and thereby implies I. In this verse he doesn't mention ourself at all. He doesn't mention the I at all. But we have to read this verse in the context of all the other verses we're looking after, and therefore we say why should Bhagavan analyze what is meant by the term body? Because it's in the context of this analysis of what we ourselves actually are. Now we seem to be this body. So first analyze what is this body, and then we can distinguish ourselves from it. So what he's saying here, generally if you ask a scientist or a doctor or someone what is a body, they'll talk about a physical form but has that comes into being, evolves, goes through life, gets old and dies. They see only the outward thing, but here Bhagavan is going much deeper into what actually do we mean by the term body. He's not talking about a dead body. A dead body isn't a form composed of 5 sheaths. He's talking about body. Why he says the body is a form composed of 5 sheaths? Because he's talking about the body that we take to be I. And the reason this body is a form of 5 sheaths is when we take this body to be I, as I said, we don't take a dead body to be I, we take a living body to be I. So annamaya kōśa plus pranamaya kōśa. And it's not just a sleeping living body, it's a awake living body. So the manamaya kōśa and the jnanamaya kōśa also added. And how all these appear to exist? Because of our self-ignorance. So the 5th sheath is also there. These are all the 5 things which are the 5 sheaths enveloping us, covering us. The sheaths with which we have enveloped ourselves. But we don't envelop ourselves with any one of these in isolation. We never experience the mind without the body. We never experience self-ignorance without taking ourselves to be a mind and body. So Bhagavan says what he means by the term body is all these, the whole person, the physical body, the life in the body, the mind, the intellect, and the underlying self-ignorance.
So, and during the discussion, you also mentioned, so in the, once that ignorance is gone, and when I think when you were explaining kaṇḍā kaචiṇḍō, so when you are in that self-realized state, there is, when he says kaචiṇḍō, he basically saying you just can't see anything else. You can't see anything phenomenal, anything other than your true nature.
Because he said the real I is oneself, the antamila, the infinite or unlimited I. So that which is unlimited can see only what is unlimited. Every form is a limitation. So every form has an extent. There's no such thing as an infinite form. A form, the meaning of the term form implies something that is in some way limited. Whether a physical form or a mental form or emotional form, every form is something within limits. Whereas the real I here means E-Y-E, kan, kan in Tamil, that is a metaphor but one uses for awareness. So the real awareness is infinite awareness. That is what we actually are.
So unfortunately, some of the teachers, have misinterpreted this, and they say acting as a witness to being quiet and acting as a witness to the phenomena around you is Atma Vichara, is the practice.
Yeah,
and I think you may want to clarify for some of the devotees.
This is in ancient texts, things have been explained in many different ways, and people often misinterpret the explanation. Sakshi means, Sakshi can be used in two senses. In the more literal sense, Sakshi is the one who sees, the one who is aware. So in that sense, the Sakshi for all this world is only the ego. It's the ego that is aware of all this. But one also explained that sometimes Sakshi is used in the sense of presence. Because when we say, when someone is summoned to court, someone who happened to be present when a car accident took place or when a crime took place, they are considered as a witness. So they're summoned to the court to bear witness to what actually happened. Why bear witness? Because they were present there. So in that sense, sometimes in ancient texts, Sakshi is used in the sense of presence, Bhagavan explained. But generally, Sakshi means that which sees or is aware. Because if you were sleeping while the crime took place, you're not a witness because you weren't seeing, though you were present in the room when the necklace was stolen. Because you were asleep, you don't know anything about it. You can't be a witness. So you can't say who it was who came into the room and stole the necklace. So Sakshi generally implies being aware. And in that sense, the Sakshi is the ego. But again, there's a problem because in ancient texts, they use the word Atman. Atman actually means oneself. So Atman can refer to oneself as one now seems to be, and it can refer to oneself as one actually is. So when they say Atman is the Sakshi, what is meant in those ancient texts is oneself is the witness. When we're separating ourselves from everything that we perceive, we isolate ourselves as the seer of it. But then who is this seer? The attention of the Sakshi has to be turned away from what is seen, back towards itself. It's necessary to distinguish between the seer and the seen, the drisya viveka, the distinguishing of what sees from what is seen. Because whatever is seen is something that appears and disappears, and therefore it's not I. But the only thing that is there constantly is the I that is perceiving all these things. So who am I? So the term Sakshi is used, the purpose of the term Sakshi used in ancient texts is to turn our attention back towards ourselves. But instead of turning our attention back towards ourselves, some pundits, and even though they may pose as spiritual gurus, they're actually just learned people, they think, okay, if I am the witness, then so long as I have this Sakshi Bhava, so long as I have the attitude that I'm witnessing everything, I'm thereby detached from it. So long as you're aware of anything, you're attaching yourself to it. Because how can you be aware of something if you don't attend to it? And attention is attachment. So the real these terms are used in ancient texts, like Sakshi Baba. It can be interpreted in different ways, and people do interpret it in different ways. Even Bhagavan's teachings, there are people who interpret Bhagavan. When I am explaining Bhagavan's teaching, I'm explaining it as I have understood it. There are other people who understand it in different ways and may disagree with me. I think because I'm connecting all of Bhagavan's teaching together, I think I can argue fairly well for how I see these things. But there will be other people who see it differently. Bhagavan himself said to Lakshman Sharma, when after Bhagavan had explained to Lakshman Sharma why he wasn't satisfied with Kavyaganta translation of Satdarshana, and why he wanted Lakshman Sharma to revise his own translation in a longer meter. Bhagavan had explained it because they didn't like Bhagavan Advaita, but they distorted Uḍalpañca and Satdarshana. And Bhagavan said they'll do the same in their Bhashya. And when the Bhashya came out, Lakshman Sharma read it, and he was appalled by how they had twisted and misinterpreted Bhagavan's teachings. For example, in one place, Kapali Sastri says, just like clay always has a form. So if clay is in the form of a pot, the pot is as real as the clay. Therefore, we cannot say that Brahman alone is real and the world is unreal. The world is the form of Brahman, and therefore it's as real as Brahman. And he said, therefore it is false and futile to argue that only the substance, Brahman, is real, and that the form, the world, is unreal. In other words, he's saying what Bhagavan teaches us is false and futile. But this was published by the ashram in Bhagavan's lifetime, not only both in 3 languages. The original Sanskrit original Sanskrit Bhashya written by Kapali Sastri, the English translation which he himself did, and the Tamil translation done by Vishwanatha Swami. All these were published in 1931 by the ashram, because people gave donations to have these books published, and Chinnaswami was keen to have more books to sell. He didn't know about these things. He didn't know what is the correct teaching of Bhagavan or not. But when Lakshman Sharma saw this, he said to Bhagavan, you've explained to me that this is how this is wrong, but if you keep quiet now when this is published by your own ashram in your lifetime, will not people in future think you have approved this? Shouldn't you openly tell everyone that this is not a correct interpretation of your teaching? Bhagavan said, according to the purity of the antakarana, antakarana means the inner organ, that means the mind and intellect. According to the purity of the antakarana, the same teaching reflects in different ways. If you think you can interpret the teaching, give a better explanation of the teaching, you write your own commentary. Thereby Bhagavan gave him the license to write his Tamil commentary, which the ashram then refused to publish. So Lakshman Sharma published first it was serialized in a magazine, and Bhagavan cut each commentary out and pasted it into a notebook. And then when the serialization had been finished, Lakshman Sharma published it as a book, but the ashram refused to sell it. So one day, very, very unusually, Bhagavan intervened. Bhagavan one day stood outside the window of Niranjananda Swami's office. And Niranjananda Swami was sitting in his office at his desk with his back to the window. And Bhagavan just stood there patiently for some 10, 15, 20 minutes. And suddenly someone in the office noticed that Bhagavan was standing there. And so he said, Swami, Bhagavan is there. And Chinnaswami got up and turned around and looked out the window to see Bhagavan. And Bhagavan simply said to him, everyone is saying Lakshman Sharma's commentary is the best commentary. Why doesn't the ashram publish it? And Chinnaswami said, oh yes, Bhagavan will publish it. And so he asked Lakshman Sharma to give all the copies, which previously he had been banning, and he pasted the ashram published by Niranjananda Swami Savadikari Ramanashram. He pasted that over the original publisher. and started selling the books. And when that was sold out, the second edition was published. So Bhagavan himself said, everyone is saying this is the best commentary. Thereby indirectly, Bhagavan won't himself say this is the best commentary. Bhagavan is very careful not to take sides, but he will indicate to those who are ready to see that this is the commentary that he approved. And why Bhagavan approved it? Because Lakshmana had painstakingly asked Bhagavan so many times, had tried to translate it to Sanskrit in so many different meters. So nobody had such detailed and long explanations of each verse of uḻḷadu Nāṛpadu as Lakshmana Sharma. So his commentary isn't perfect. He gets things a little bit wrong here and there, but on the whole, his commentary is a very, very good commentary. So, and it shows the real, to a very, very great extent, it reflects the real teachings of Bhagavan. But as Bhagavan said, according to the purity of the Antakarana, the same teaching reflects in different ways. So long as the Antakarana exists, there will be some residual impurity there. If we want to have a perfectly pure Antakarana, the root impurity in the Antakarana is buddhi, manas, chittam and ahankara. The root of all these is the ahankara. That is the root of them, and it is the root impurity. So if we want to have a perfectly pure Antakarana, and thereby be able to understand Bhagavan's teaching perfectly, we first have to get rid of our ego. So anyone who says, I have understood Bhagavan's teachings correctly, they haven't understood because they've got a big ego. But to the extent our ego is effaced, to that extent Bhagavan's, the true import of Bhagavan's teachings will shine in our heart. So to understand them, we not only have to read them, we have to think about them carefully. Like he said there, eṇṛ, if we consider, we have to think carefully about why Bhagavan taught all these things. What is the connection between what he said in uḻḷadu Nāṛpadu, what he said in Nāņa, what he said in Upadesha? Understanding the connection, forming a coherent understanding, a complete and coherent understanding of his four teachings. For that we have to think carefully about it. That's first we have to read it, that's the Sravana. Then we have to think deeply about it, that's the Manana. And the most important of all, we have to put it into practice. Because it's only by putting it into practice that the clarity will come to our mind. Because what is the source of all clarity? The source of all clarity is the self-awareness that's always shining in our heart. So only when we look at that self-awareness is our mind clarified and purified. And will the teachings shine more and more clearly and correctly in our mind.
So, in the story you just you said about Lakshmana Sharma, so somewhere I read that detailed sort of word by word commentary Bhagavan gave it only to Muruganar and Lakshmana Sharma. Is that right?
Well, he didn't really give it to Muruganar, because Muruganar and Bhagavan, they sat together when it was at Muruganar's request that Bhagavan wrote uḻḷadu Nāṛpadu. Muruganar had first gathered some 21 verses, and he asked Bhagavan to form these verses along with others into a text. What he asked Bhagavan is, Meyin ilbum adu meivum tirunum, that is the nature of the reality and the means to attain it, teach us so that the people of the world can be saved. That was Muruganar's request. So when Bhagavan was writing it, as with Upadesha, Bhagavan discussed each and every verse with Muruganar, and slowly, one by one, Muruganar was removing the old verses. In the end, only 3 of the original 21 found their place in uḻḷadu Nāṛpadu, and 2 of them Bhagavan modified while doing it. So it's the whole of uḻḷadu Nāṛpadu was written by Bhagavan, but Muruganar and Bhagavan were discussing the ideas very carefully, where there were gaps, where gaps needed filling up, and the sequence in which to present it and everything. So it was though of course Bhagavan is the original source of the teaching, it was a work that he did very, very closely with Muruganar.
Okay.
And in the case of Upadesha some of the verses of Upadesha were actually written by Muruganar, particularly the last verse, verse 30, which is why he says
Ramanesa.
Kanam Ramanesam Undipara. So it was Bhagavan who said this. Muruganar said, I think also verse 16, but he didn't write it of his own accord. Bhagavan and he were discussing it, and while they were discussing it, he wrote, and Bhagavan said, okay, we'll take that verse. So I mean, it was with Bhagavan's full approval. So they worked together so closely. In the case of Lakshman Sharma, and Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu, it was slightly different. Lakshman Sharma, when Lakshman Sharma, in the early days when Lakshman Sharma was coming to Bhagavan, Bhagavan one day asked him, have you read Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu? And Lakshman Sharma said, no Bhagavan, I'm a Sanskrit student. My knowledge of literary Tamil is not so good. I mean, he didn't say literary Tamil, obviously. He said my knowledge of Tamil is not so good. But Bhagavan understood what he meant. Of course, he spoke Tamil. Tamil was his mother tongue. But because he had studied Sanskrit at school rather than Tamil, he didn't have a good knowledge of the style of Tamil, the literary style of Tamil in which Bhagavan was Nāṛpadu. So he had difficulty understanding it. But when he said that to Bhagavan, then he thought to himself that this is a very good opportunity. So he added, but I would like to study it if Bhagavan will teach me. So Bhagavan started to teach him the meaning of each verse. And then because he was a keen student of Sanskrit, he asked Bhagavan, can I try and write this in Sanskrit? And Bhagavan encouraged him. And he tried at first, because Bhagavan had told him how the story of how Kavyaganta, had talked about all the beautiful meters in Sanskrit and there's no poetry in the world like Sanskrit. Bhagavan said, is there a meter like Vemba in Sanskrit? And Kavyaganta asked, what is that? And Bhagavan explained to him a rule of Vemba. And Kavyaganta wasn't able to compose a single verse in Vemba meter. So when Bhagavan had, in the course of the conversation of their talk, Bhagavan had mentioned this to Lakshman Sharma. So Lakshman Sharma tried to translate the first verse into a Vemba, but he struggled and he couldn't do it. So Bhagavan himself translated the first verse of Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu, that is the first Mangalam verse. Bhagavan translated it into Sanskrit as a Vemba. I think I've got that. I've got a note of that here. If I remember correctly. Yes, that is. Bhagavan said, Sadvina Sajñānam Astu Kimu Satyam Vritti Rahitam Hridi Vibhati Attaha Tathridayam Dhyayati Katam Hridita Atmabhavastihi Dhyanam Sat Vastu Nasyat. That's almost an exact translation of the Tamil verse. Bhagavan translated into Sanskrit in the Vemba meter. So this is the only verse in Sanskrit that has been written in Vemba meter. And later when Bhagavan was telling the same story to many years later, in the 1940s, when he was telling to devotees who were there, Suri Nagama asked Bhagavan to write a Vemba in Telugu. So then he wrote the first Vemba of Ekapma Panchkam in Telugu, in Vemba meter. And that's how Ekapma Panchkam came to be written, first in Telugu and then in Tamil. So Lakshman Sharma first tried to compose in Vemba, but he understood it's too difficult for him. Then he tried in various other meters. He first did one meter, and then he wanted to revise it, and so he tried down another meter, and every time he was consulting with Bhagavan, taking advice from Bhagavan. So that gave him an opportunity to go over Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu again and again and again with Bhagavan. And once Bhagavan remarked to other people his passion for Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu and for translating it again and again, for him it is a great tapas.
Right.
So that indirectly Bhagavan approved of such activity, because though ultimately we all have to turn our attention back within and merge within, because most of us are not yet mature enough to keep our attention focused on ourselves all the time. So our mind keeps on jumping outwards. So long as our mind is turning outwards, we should keep it dwelling on Bhagavan's teachings as much as possible. With Bhagavan's teachings will be constantly encouraging us and motivating us to turn back within. So if people sometimes ask, is there any aid to self-inquiry? Well, what better aid is there than studying and constantly reflecting on Bhagavan's teachings? That's why if we were to go through one verse of Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu for each session, it's going to take 42 sessions, and you'll find in almost every session I'll be saying the same thing again and again and again and again and again, maybe in slightly different ways, maybe slightly different aspects, but it's the same thing I'll be going on and saying again and again. If you read the articles in my blog, I'm saying the same things again and again and again, the same verses I'm quoting, similar, okay, each time it's a slightly different explanation because it's an answer to a different question, but basically it's the same thing again and again. But I don't bore of this. I mean, some other people may get bored if they're not interested in Bhagavan's teaching, but if we're passionately interested in Bhagavan's teaching, we will naturally want to hear these things again and again and again, because the more we hear it, the more we read about it, the more we think about it, the clearer and clearer it becomes to us.
Right.
And the more we're motivated to try and put it into practice, which is where, as I said earlier, where the real clarity will come from. Nobody can understand Bhagavan's teachings correctly unless they put it into practice. To the extent we put it into practice, to that extent we'll be able to understand it clearly and correctly. So the studying and thinking about the teachings is no substitute for practice, but it's a great aid to the practice.
So, I just wanted to come back to that, the witness issue. If we really understand the interpretations according to Lakshmana Sharma's commentary, or how Sadhu Om has explained, so you really are not supposed to, during your practice, try to witness other things, right? Because then your attention is going outwards.
According to Bhagavan, all other things, everything other than ourselves is a thought. Even the ego is a thought. The ego is the root thought, the first thought called I. And it's the root of all other thoughts. But whereas the nature of all other thoughts, when we attend to them, they multiply, because our attention is going outwards. When we attend to the first thought, the ego, ourself, this first thought will subside, because this first thought, the ego, rises by grasping other thoughts. Because though Bhagavan says the ego is a thought, it is a thought because it's a mixture of chit and jada. The jada portion is the thought portion. So as a combination of the chit and the jada, and the jada portion being a thought, in other words this body, consisting of 5 sheaths, this combined, this mixed self-awareness is a thought. So the ego is a thought, but unlike all other thoughts, no other thought is aware, either of itself or of anything else. The ego is the only thought that is aware. And it is the nature of this ego is to be aware of things other than itself. So the ego seems to exist so long as it is looking at other things. When it turns back to look at itself, its seeming existence dissolves, because it doesn't actually exist. The rope seems to be a snake only so long as we don't look at it carefully. If we look at it carefully enough, we'll see that it's a rope, and then we'll never again be afraid of it, thinking it's a snake. So this ego causes problems because we don't look at it. If we look at it, it will subside and disappear. So so long as we're attending to anything other than ourselves, we are feeding the ego. When we turn our attention back towards ourselves, we are starving the ego of its nourishment. We are undermining it. We are cutting its root, cutting it at the very root. While it is the root, we are cutting it. So we're undermining the whole edifice created by the ego when we look at the ego itself. So we should witness only the witness and nothing else. Everyone said everything other than ourselves is a thought. And whatever thought arises, without trying to complete it, we should turn our attention back to see who is thinking this thought. To whom did this thought occur? That we don't ask the question, we look to see to whom did this occur. Who am I?
Any other questions on today's words or any other related topics?
How to catch hold of the ego?
No, you don't need to catch hold of the ego. You let go.
Well, no. We should try to catch hold of the ego. Certainly we should try, but we'll never succeed because there's nothing to catch hold of. But by trying to catch hold of the ego, if you try to catch the snake, when you catch it, if you think, oh, well, this is the tail, let me pick it up by the tail, then it won't bite me or something. Or if we pick it just behind the head, then it won't bite me. If we try to pick it, to grasp it, what do we find? There's no snake there at all, it's just a rope. So if we try to grasp this ego, what we will end up grasping is the reality, is the substance that appeared as ego, which is just pure self-awareness. So try to grasp the ego, we will not find any such thing. But in trying, we'll find what we really are. And that's all that we need to find. Because that's all that actually exists. So grasping, how it's the ego that is trying to grasp itself. It's the ego now that has grasped all these things. Uḍalpañca uṇḍō, uḍalpañca nikum, uḍalpañca eṉṇum. Grasping form it rises. Grasping form it stands. Grasping and feeding on forms it flourishes gratefully. Viṭṭu uḍalpañca, leaving one form it grasps another. How is this ego grasping anything? Well, one said the ego is uḍalpañca paya. It's a formless phantom ego. So, how can a formless phantom grasp anything? How we grasp things is we grasp things in our awareness. The hand by which we grasp things is our attention. So when we attend to other things, we are grasping them. When we attend to ourselves, we are grasping ourselves. So we grasp the ego by trying to attend to ourselves, by turning our attention back to within, by looking deep within to see who am I.
So basically mind and ego, are they the same?
Mind and ego,
are they same?
according to Bhagavan, they're the same almost. I mean, ego is a cause of mind.
Essentially, yes. But the thing is, as Bhagavan explains in verse 18 of Uḍalpañca, he said, the mind is eṉṇum. Thoughts alone are the mind. Of all the thoughts, the first thought is the root thought is, or the thought called I is the root. Therefore, what is called mind is I. What he means, implication of this is, generally when we use the term mind, we use the term mind as a collective name for all thoughts. All mental phenomena come under the umbrella term mind. But these thoughts are constantly changing. So how to say, like it's a bit like saying all this water flowing here is the river, is the Gaṇḍā or the Thames or the Vega or whatever the river is. How we identify a river, but actually it's constantly flowing water. So what can we actually identify as the river? We can only identify the bed of the river as the river, because the water is constantly changing. Similar with the mind is constantly changing. What is the bed of the mind? The bed of the mind is I. It's only I who rise and think all these thoughts. Only I who am aware of all these thoughts. That I is the ego, the first thought, the thought called I, as one calls it. So that is what the mind essentially is. So though mind is often used as a collective term for all the thoughts, all mental phenomena, what the mind essentially is only the ego. So in most cases where Bhagavan is referring to mind, he's referring to the ego. But in some cases he's referring to other thoughts. So we have to understand from the context. We can explain the same thing in another way. The mind consists of two aspects, the objective and the subjective. The objective aspect is all the phenomena that make up the mind, all the mental phenomena that make up the mind. That's all the thoughts, the feelings, emotions, perceptions, conceptions, beliefs, hopes, fears. All these mental phenomena are the objective form of aspect of the mind. They're all things that we experience. They're all the seen rather than the seer. But the seer, the one who is aware of all these mental phenomena, that is I. So that is the subjective aspect of the mind. So that I is what the mind essentially is. Because the mental phenomena are constantly changing. But what is unchanging, as long as the mind is there, is the root of the mind, the base of the mind, which is I. So just like we can point out only the bed of the river as the river, because the water is just passing by and it will soon merge into the ocean, and is therefore no longer part of the river. Only the bed is what, whether the water is there or not, the bed is there. Well, in the case of the mind, it's not quite like that, because when all other thoughts cease, as in sleep, the ego ceases along with it. So the ego never exists without other thoughts, but the other thoughts are constantly changing. The ego is what remains unchanging so long as it's active. But again, it subsides back into sleep, so even the ego is not permanent. It's permanent in waking and dream, but ceases to exist as soon as we fall asleep. So essentially, what the mind is the ego. So Bhagavan often used the term mind as a synonym for ego.
If you have a question.
Yes, and Michael, I'm just wondering, so can the mind or can I, the ego, know my ego as an object? Like I know my emotions, my thoughts, my feelings.
No.
The ego can never come in front of the subject.
The ego is never an object. The ego is what is aware of all the objects.
No, but I thought awareness was what is aware of all the objects, and ego is an object of awareness.
No. Again, when you use awareness there, awareness is a very ambiguous term. Pure awareness, what we actually are is pure awareness. Pure awareness is not aware of anything except itself.
So ego is not an object of pure awareness.
It's not an object. The ego seems to exist only in its own view. And the ego always experiences itself as the subject, not as the object. The ego is what is aware of everything else. So the ego is a form of awareness, but it's not pure awareness, it's an impure awareness.
So what is aware of
Body mixed awareness.
Sorry, so what is aware of awareness? What is aware of the ego being aware of other things?
Only the ego. The ego exists only in its own view. The pure awareness that we actually are is never aware of the ego, never aware of anything other than itself. That is, pure awareness is not aware of anything. There are no objects for pure awareness. What is aware of objects is only the subject, which is the ego. That's why the real witness is only the ego.
So you cannot witness the witness again.
Well, no, we should try and witness the witness, but when we try and witness the witness, that when we try and look at the ego, if we look at it carefully enough, keenly enough, we'll see that it's just pure self-awareness, and therefore never was an ego, and therefore never was aware of anything else. That is, we have to distinguish two forms of awareness. Bhagavan said what we actually are is aindum in Nanya. But when he talked about ego, he referred to it as sutaridu. Aridu means awareness. Sutaridu means it means pointing, indicating, or showing awareness. In other words, what is implied by that is awareness that is aware of other things. Pure awareness is not aware of anything else. There are no objects for pure awareness. Objects exist only for the subject, which is sutaridu, the pointing awareness. In modern English philosophy, they use two terms, which is transitive and intransitive awareness. But if you read what modern philosophers say about it, there's a lot of confusion. They get confused about they coin terms and then they use them and confuse themselves. But these are actually very useful terms for us to use. Because transitive awareness means awareness of objects. Just like in grammar, transitive is a term used in grammar. A transitive verb is a verb that takes an object. For example, if you say I ate, then obviously you have to ask, what did you eat? You cannot eat without eating something. So eat is always a transitive verb. But if you say I sit, I can't ask what are you sitting, because there's no object for sit. Sit is an intransitive verb. So we can use the same words to apply to awareness. There's transitive awareness is sutaridu. That's the nature of the ego, to be aware of objects. The intransitive awareness is real awareness. Intransitive awareness is never aware of anything. It is just aware. In order to be aware of something, we have to be aware. But in order to be aware, we don't have to be aware of anything. In sleep we're aware, but we're not aware of anything. So what is the real awareness is just awareness. Awareness that is aware of nothing other than itself. We cannot be aware without being aware of ourselves, because awareness entails being aware that I am aware. So in order to be aware that I am aware, I must be aware of I. So the pure awareness, the intransitive awareness, is self-awareness. Our self is not an object known by ourself. It is just awareness by its very nature is aware of itself. So that is the real awareness that we are. So pure self-awareness or pure awareness is never aware of any object. What is aware of objects is only the mixed self-awareness, I am this body. So the pure I am is aware of nothing else other than itself, because it alone exists. What is aware of the appearance of other things is I am this body, the ego.
Yes.
Is that clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So,
Yes.
right. So, so there, I cannot know, but I can experience it. Is that what you're saying? Like I cannot know it, but it's not known either. Like what I'm trying to say is, would I be enlightened and not know it? Like that would be a problem.
We cannot know pure awareness as an object. We can know pure awareness by being pure awareness. That is why Bhagavan says, Tanai irisare tanai avidalam. In the Upadeshwam he says, knowing oneself is being oneself.
Yes, Michael. So could I know myself and be myself without actually, like I am that right now, but so I am, like, can I?
You are that right now, but you seem to be something else. You seem to be a person, don't you?
Yes, of course.
So long as you seem to be a person, you're not aware of yourself as you actually are. And so long as you seem to be a person, you're aware of so many other things. what is aware of all those other, who is it who feels I am this person? It is the ego.
Yes.
So the ego that is aware of itself as I am this person, that is what is aware of all other things.
Yes.
The pure I am is not aware of itself as I am this or I am that, it's aware of itself only as I am I.
So is there an experience in that pure I am? I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm just trying to, I guess, use my intellectual, I'm trying to, I guess that's beyond intellect, but yet that's the only tool I have to grasp this at the moment.
Yes.
So when I am in that I am state, like I am when I am sleeping, but I have no experience of bliss or sadness or anything, it's just, there's no experience.
Who says you have no experience? It's now the ego is saying you have no experience. The ego wasn't there in sleep. One, you betray the fact that you were aware of your existence in sleep because you say, when I am sleeping, who is sleeping? Who is that I who is sleeping? The very fact that we say, I was asleep, means that we were aware that we existed in sleep. Well, you can't be asleep if you don't exist. In order to be asleep, you must exist. So when we say, last night I slept well, the very fact that we say we slept means that we existed in that state, and we knew that we existed in that state. We were aware of being in a state which we were aware of nothing. Aware of nothing means aware of no object, but we were aware of being ourselves, being aware. So that is why it's called intransitive awareness. There's no object of that for that awareness. We're not aware of any object, of any phenomenon in sleep. Why we cannot explain the experience of sleep? Because we weren't aware of anything except ourselves, and we can't describe ourselves. So what we want to experience now in the waking state is that pure awareness that we experienced in sleep. In sleep, how do we experience that pure awareness?
It just happens.
Because this ego is constantly active throughout the waking and dream states. It's constantly projecting and experiencing phenomena. That requires a lot of energy. So by the end of a 16-hour stint of this, we begin to get very tired, and we need to go to sleep. So we fall asleep because of tiredness. The ego no longer has the energy to continue projecting, so it subsides back into its source. And mysteriously, during that time that it remains subsided in its source, it picks up energy again. That means where is the source of all energy? It is only ourself. It's only pure self-awareness is the source from which the ego gets its energy. So because the ego subsides in sleep due to sheer exhaustion, it is not destroyed. So it keeps on popping up again. In order to destroy the ego, when the ego subsides in sleep, we experience pure self-awareness. That doesn't destroy the ego. But if we try to experience that pure self-awareness while the ego is awake and alert, that will destroy the ego, because the ego, when it tries to look at itself, it will see what it really is, and thereby will see that it's not what it had seemed to be. So, in order to destroy the ego, the experience of pure self-awareness should be the cause of the subsiding of the mind. Whereas in sleep, the experience of pure self-awareness is caused by the subsiding of the mind. So it's the pure self-awareness, that the self-awareness, the term adaṉāl is often translated as self-knowledge, but it's actually self-awareness, being aware of ourselves as we actually are. So we need to be aware of ourselves as we actually are, here and now in the waking state. If we're aware of ourselves as we actually are now, then we will be destroyed forever. So that's what we are trying to do. We're trying to see what we actually are. That's why we turn our attention within, to look deep within ourselves. We're not looking for an object, we're looking for ourselves, the subject. I mean, we're not looking for ourselves as if we've disappeared. We're looking at ourselves to see what we actually are.
Yes.
So Bhagavan sometimes use the word like he said in Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu, adaṉāl literally means if one seeks or if one searches. But obviously we're not searching for I, because it's I who is searching. It would be meaningless to say. But Bhagavan uses the term metaphorically to mean when we look very keenly at ourselves, the ego will disappear. Because just like when a snake will disappear, if you look very keenly at it, if you look at it keenly enough, you'll see it's a snake. Sorry, you'll see it's a rope. And therefore the snake will be destroyed. That is in exactly the same way the ego will be destroyed if you look at it closely enough. Because it is not what it seems to be.
Right.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Michael, one more question. So when
Bhagavan
somebody
teaches, I say this again and again and again, but something, Bhagavan is so incredibly simple, really simple.
Yes.
We
That's
all struggle to understand it. Why do we struggle to understand it? Because our minds are complicated. We've got so many beliefs, ideas, and we try and understand his teaching through the filter of our mind, of all the preconceptions in our mind. We first have to, Bhagavan used to say, if you want to make space in a room, you've got to throw out all the rubbish first, clear out all the furniture. The space is already there, you've just got to remove the clutter. So the clarity is already there in our mind. We need to remove the clutter, all our other preconceived ideas and beliefs.
It's more than ideas and beliefs.
Bhagavan used to say, in this path, it's not a matter of learning so much as a matter of unlearning. We need to unlearn. It means we need to clear out all our old ideas and be ready to view Bhagavan's teachings with completely fresh, unprejudiced eyes. We have to become like little children
Just have
in
to let
terms
go.
of the simplicity of understanding. So Bhagavan's teachings are not for great intellectual geniuses, brilliant academics, or any of these people. It's for very simple people who are ready just to concentrate on that, to look within and to see very clearly what is the truth. It's a matter of recognition of what is the truth. Understand, and Bhagavan's teachings are very simple concepts to help us in that inward journey.
Thank you so much for, trying to restate it over and over again.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's for my own benefit as much as anyone else. Because I'm no better than any of you. My mind is also going outwards. I also have desires, attachments, fears. Because as long as we take ourselves from your body, of course we have all these things. Of course we are concerned for, we're concerned for our health, we're concerned, we have a roof over our head, we're concerned for security, we want to take care of, and we have our near and dear ones. We've got so many things. This is the nature of so long as we take ourselves to be a person, all these things will be there. But slowly, we've got to train our mind to turn within. Bhagavan said, mella, slowly, gradually, we have to do this. And so we all need to be reminded constantly of this. So the reason I love to talk about Bhagavan's teachings, explain them, answer people's questions, write articles about them, all this, is because it's making me think about it more and more deeply and from more and more different angles. And that's helping me in my inward journey. So I am as grateful to you as you are to me. We're all fellow travelers on the path, and we're just sharing what we have understood and what we know. And I was very fortunate that I was with Sadhu for so many years, and through my association with him, and also perhaps because I was doing 20 years of daily collection, of walking around Arunachal day after day, Bhagavan said Arunachal is the fire of jnana. If you walk around it, just like fire will burn whether you believe in it or not, they still will do good whether you believe in it or not. He said I think he said to Dr. Syed, one Muslim devotee from Hyderabad. So we can't understand it, but Aaron actually does have a wonderful power. So I was fortunate that for 20 years of my life, from about the age of 20 to the age of 40, I was going around the hill almost every day. And also I had that great fortune of being with Sadhuam. This somehow has given me the clarity to be able to explain these things.
And especially the
It doesn't necessarily mean that I've gone any deeper into myself than anyone else, but at least I'm trying, and I try to encourage myself while encouraging others.
Michael, in one place, Bhagavan says, Summa Iru. So what do you mean by Summa Iru?
Summa Iru means just be. Summa means just, simply, without activity. Now we are constantly doing, we're constantly thinking. The very rising of the ego is contrary to Summa Iru. Summa Iru means just being. So the nature of the ego is not just being, the nature of the ego is rising and knowing things other than itself. So in order to attain that state of Summa Iru, just being, we have to turn our attention back within. So long as we allow our attention to go outwards, that is a mental activity. With everything other than ourselves, so to be aware of anything other than ourselves, there must be a movement of our mind or attention away from ourselves towards that other thing. But when we turn our attention back within to ourselves, our attention is remaining in its source. There's no movement from ourselves to ourselves. There's no space to move there. So when we turn our attention within, the mind subsides, and what remains is the state of just being, Summa Iru.
Thanks, Michael.
So, in many ancient Tamil texts, it is said. I mean, this is said to be the highest of all Upadeshas, of all teachings, Summa Iru. When it's what Muruga said to Saint Aravinatha, Summa Iru. So, but how to just be?
Exactly. The next question.
None of us know. Bhagavan has given us the clue. You rise by attaching yourself to things other than yourself. You subside and remain in your state of just being by attending to yourself. That's why he says in verse 8 of Upadesh India, Anya bhavatin avanaham ananya bhav mayuni para nature nimutamo mundi para. That means ananya bhava. No, sorry, anya bhavatin. Anya bhava means meditation on what is other than oneself. Anya bhavatin, rather than anya bhava, avanaham ananya bhava means. Ananya bhava means meditating on what is not other. That means meditating on oneself. And he explains that by saying, avanaham, that in which he is I. That instead of meditating upon God as something other than ourselves, we meditate upon him as ourself. With the understanding that God is nothing but other than I. God is what is shining in me as I. Doesn't mean we meditate, he is I, he is I. It's not thinking that. It is, if we truly understand, if we are truly convinced that God is I, how do we meditate on God? We meditate on I. So that is an anya bhava, when we are meditating on nothing other than ourselves. And he says, eṉṇum, that is the best of all. It's the best of all spiritual practices, all forms of meditation, all forms of bhakti. That is the best of all. And then in the next verse he says, bhava balatina, that means by the strength of bhava. That's referring to the ananya bhava, the meditation of what is not other. By the strength of that ananya bhava, by the strength of ananya bhava in effect means self-attentiveness, self-contemplation, meditating on ourselves. By the strength of that meditation, bhava balatina, bhavanatita satbhava tirupura, being in the sat-bhava, that means in the real being, in our natural, in our true state, in our state of being, which is bhavanatita. Bhavanatita means which transcends or which is beyond bhavana, beyond thinking. Parabhakti tattvam undipara. That is the essence of supreme devotion. So that state of Summa Iru, that is the state of supreme devotion. And we achieve that by the strength of self-attentiveness. That's what I mean by bhava balatina. By the strength of that self-attentiveness, remaining in our state of in our true state of being, that is supreme devotion.
Thanks, Michael. Thank you.
So that's verse 9. You just quoted verse 9, 8 and verse 9 of Upadeshandya. 8 and 9 of Upadeshandya.
Yeah. Those are two very, very important verses.
Right.
That is the whole purpose of the first 10 verses of Upadeshandya, is to show how karma and bhakti must eventually lead to the path of Atma-vichara, and only by the Atma-vichara we can be established in our state of being. And then it says in verse 10, that means subsiding and being in the place from which one rose. From where did we rise? Only from ourselves. That we cannot have risen from anywhere else. We only rose from ourselves. So being in our real self, being as we really are, that is karma and yoga, that is bhakti and jnana, he says. Then in the next 4 verses, he explains how the path of yoga must also merge into the path of Atma-vichara. He says in verse 14, the mind which will subside if the breath is controlled, before it subsides completely, the implication is, if it's directed on the one path, or the path of knowing. He used the term there, all buried. All can mean one, it can also mean knowing, the path of knowing or the path of investigation. Which indirectly that's referring to the path of Atma-vichara. By directing the mind on this path of Atma-vichara, it will die. Its form will die, he said. So he explains how karma and bhakti must merge in Atma-vichara, and how yoga must also merge in Atma-vichara. Because Atma-vichara is the only root. What is the root of all the problems? The problem is the ego. And the ego is a wrong knowledge of ourselves. So until we look at ourselves and see what we actually are, we cannot get rid of this ego. And until we get rid of this ego, so long as the ego is there, we'll be engaged in karma, there'll be desires, we'll be lacking in true devotion, we'll be trying to reunite with God as if we were separated from Him in the first place. All these arise only because we have mistaken ourselves to be something other than what we are. So the solution is what? To see what we actually are. So simple. That's all there is to it.
Right.
Thanks, Michael.
But though we can understand why Bhagavan says this is so easy, but why then does it seem so difficult to us? Because we're not yet ready to let go. We're not yet ready to surrender ourselves to Bhagavan. We still have love for ourselves as a person. We still value our life as a person. Because as this person, we enjoy so many things. We enjoy tasty food, we enjoy beautiful sights, we enjoy discussions with our friends, we enjoy watching movies, we enjoy doing this, we enjoy doing that. And we also suffer along with it all, but that's okay because at least we get some pleasure out of it. So we go on with all our desires and attachments and our fears and everything. We are not yet ready to let go. Even when we're faced with death, we're still not ready to let go. We cling on to life. And because we cling on to life, we take birth again and again and again and again. But sooner or later, we have to let go of everything. And how to let go of everything? Bhagavan has said in verse 26 of Uḻḷadu Nāṛpadu, since everything comes into existence only when the ego comes into existence, and since the ego will subside only when we investigate it, therefore, investigating what is this ego is giving up everything. And he says the same in Nāṇya. He says, Anma chintane kavira, there chintane kalambavadu, satum idum padamo, apmanishta paranai irukade, tanne isanaku alipadam. That means being firmly established in oneself, giving no room to the rising of any thought other than Atma-chintana. Atma-chintana literally means thought of oneself, but in this context it means self-attentiveness. that is giving oneself to God. That alone is giving oneself to God. So we can surrender this ego only by atmachintanam, only by attending to ourselves and giving no room to, if we should attend to ourselves so keenly, but we give no room to the rising of any other thought. Because other thoughts can arise only when we attend to them. If we steadfastly attend only to ourselves, giving no room to, for our attention to be diverted towards anything else, no other thought can arise. And that alone is surrendering ourselves to God. Because the ego rises by grasping other things. So only when we avoid grasping anything else, by grasping only ourselves, then we are truly surrendering ourselves, this ego, to God. So, but we must, that requires willingness, that requires bhakti. And how do we get that bhakti? Why we are now lacking bhakti? Because we still believe that we get pleasure from we get happiness from the external things of the world, or from our thoughts, from anything other than ourselves. We still think we're deriving happiness. We read Bhagavan's teachings, they give us pleasure. So we go on reading more and more and more. But we need to read them, we need to understand them, but we shouldn't stop with that. We need to put them into practice and turn back within. So we are finding pleasure in so many things other than ourselves, because we don't yet have the clarity to understand all the happiness we derive from these things is actually happiness that is already there within us. So we need to have great clarity, and from where the more clear we are, the more clearly we understand that happiness lies within, the more love we will have to attend only to ourselves. So how to get that clarity, to understand that, and thereby develop this bhakti? We get that clarity only by looking within. That is why Bhagavan says, mella mella, gradually, gradually, slowly, slowly, gently, gently. We have to follow this practice. We have to slowly, slowly, Bhagavan said, like offering a bunch of green grass to a runaway cow. We're not threatening the cow in any way, we're just enticing it back to its shed. So the mind is like this runaway cow. If we run after it with a stick, it will run away from us. But if we tempt it slowly, slowly, with the help of Bhagavan's teachings the word green grass, so following this green grass, trying to put into practice what he's taught us, that will lead us back to our home.
Thanks, Michael. Great explanation.
That's good. Thank you. I guess, yeah, well, time just flew by today.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you so much. As I say, I'm benefited as much as anyone else by talking about Bhagavan's teaching.
Right. So, and I'll get in touch with you for the next month's session.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.